Commander Elara Vega floated weightlessly inside the research vessel, Odyssey, her fingers dancing over the control panel. It had been a routine mission, a deep space survey to map a new sector of the galaxy, but her search had yielded something unexpected, a small, weathered journal drifting among the debris of an old space station. Elara retrieved the journal and inspected it. It was a relic, its cover scuffed and faded, with no visible identification. The only marking was a faint inscription: "To those who follow, I hope these words find you." Intrigued, Elara opened the first page. The handwriting was shaky, but intelligible, written in a style she hadn't seen before. It was the first entry. Day 1, I am alone. This place is beyond the reach of any known maps, but I had to come. The answers lie here, in the void. If you find this journal, please follow the path. There is still time. Alara's brow furrowed. Who was the writer, and how had their journal ended up here? She scanned the pages, her heart skipping a beat, as she saw sketches of planets she didn't recognize. Massive gas giants with violent rings, moons cloaked in shimmering blue mist. None of these worlds matched any of the current star charts. The next entry read, Day 12. I found the first clue, the wormhole, hidden in the shadow of the dying star. It's unstable, but it's the only way forward. If you're reading this, you must go through it. There is no other path. Elara felt a shiver down her spine. Coordinates scribbled in the margins pointed to a sector of space she was unfamiliar with. A gut feeling, an instinct she couldn't explain, told her she needed to follow the journal's directions. But it was reckless, deviating from her mission without official approval. She hesitated, glancing out the viewport at the vast expanse of space. She knew the risks, but something about the journal called to her. It was a plea for help from someone who had been lost for decades. Taking a deep breath, she set a course for the coordinates listed in the journal. Her fingers trembled as she initiated the thrusters, the Odyssey veering off its original path and into uncharted territory. As she drifted deeper into the unknown, she turned back to the journal, skimming ahead. The entries became more desperate, filled with warnings. Day 36. The path is clear, but the dangers grow. I can feel the time slipping away. If you follow, beware the loop. I thought I could escape it, but I was wrong. Elara's heart pounded in her chest. What did they mean by the loop? And why did the writing feel so familiar, as if she had read it before? She looked out at the stars, her hand gripping the journal tightly. She had a feeling this journey was about to change everything she thought she knew about time, space, and her own destiny. And she wasn't sure she was ready for the answers she might find. The Odyssey hurtled through space, the engines humming with a steady rhythm. Elara sat at the helm, the journal open beside her. The coordinates led her to the edge of a solar system dominated by a red giant star, its light casting long shadows across the asteroid field she had navigated through. There, she whispered, spotting a dark void nestled in the star's shadow. A wormhole, just as the journal described. It was barely visible, a rippling distortion in the fabric of space. The anomaly readings flashed across her screen, indicating unstable gravitational forces. Elara hesitated, hand hovering over the thruster control. Every protocol drilled into her screamed against entering an uncharted wormhole without backup. But the journal's words echoed in her mind. It's unstable, but it's the only way forward. Taking a deep breath, she pushed the thrusters to full power, propelling the Odyssey toward the wormhole. The ship vibrated violently as it entered the swirling vortex. Lights flickered, and the metal groaned under the strain. Elara gripped the controls, her knuckles white. Hold together, she muttered. The ship shuddered, and for a moment, everything went black. When the shaking stopped, Elara opened her eyes. She was no longer near the red giant. Instead, she found herself floating above a stunning, uncharted planet. It was just as the journal described, a massive gas giant with violet rings, its colors swirling like a cosmic painting. She flipped through the pages, her eyes landing on a sketch that matched the view outside her window. The entry read, Day 45. This is the first world, a place of answers. But be careful, the artifact is hidden beneath the clouds, guarded by beings who do not understand time as we do. Elara scanned the surface, spotting a dark storm churning with the planet's atmosphere. It seemed to pulse with an unnatural rhythm, like the heartbeat of something ancient and alive. The journal's warnings flashed through her mind, but she couldn't turn back now. She guided the Odyssey into the planet's atmosphere, descending through the thick clouds. Lightning crackled around her, illuminating glimpses of strange serpentine creatures that swam through the gas like fish in water. The sensors beeped, picking up massive energy signatures below. Elara descended further, breaking through the storm to find a large, crystalline structure embedded in the clouds. A monolith that seemed to hum with power. Is this the artifact, she wondered aloud, reaching for her scanner. Before she could get a reading, a sudden jolt rocked the ship, throwing her against the console. The screen flickered, showing a new entry from the journal, one she hadn't noticed before. Day 60. The artifact is a key, but it also blinds us. If you come this far, you're already trapped. Beware the loop. Elara's breath caught in her throat. The journal wasn't just a guide, it was a warning, and she was beginning to suspect that the writer knew her far better than she realized. Elara sat in the cockpit, staring at the monolith. It glowed softly, emanating a rhythmic pulse that resonated with her heartbeat. The journal warnings echoed in her mind. Beware the loop. What did it mean? And why did the writing feel like a message meant specifically for her? She reached out, running her hand along the monolith's surface. It was cold, and yet, as her fingers brushed against it, a jolt of recognition shot through her. She yanked her hand back, her mind flooded with images, glimpses of alien worlds, a spacecraft hurtling through space, and a face that looked exactly like hers, older and worn by time. No, she whispered, stepping back. This can't be real. A faint voice filled the cabin, crackling through the comm system. It was distorted, but unmistakably hers. Elara, the voice said, weak and filled with exhaustion. If you're hearing this, you found the artifact. I didn't want it to be you, but it was inevitable. We're stuck in a loop, repeating the same journey over and over, trying to find a way to break free. Elara's head spun. Who are you? She demanded, though she already knew the answer. I'm you, the voice replied, a future version trapped here for what feels like centuries. The journal was my attempt to guide you, to warn you. I failed every time before, but maybe you can succeed. Elara's breath came in short gasps. How do I stop this? How do I break the loop? The monolith's pulse quickened and the voice grew faint. You have to destroy the artifact. It's the key to the time loop, binding us here. But if you do, you might erase both of us from existence. The signal cut out, leaving Elara in stunned silence. Her future self had sacrificed everything, leaving behind a trail of clues in a desperate attempt to save her. But now she faced an impossible choice. Destroy the artifact and risk her own existence, or leave it intact and remain trapped in the endless cycle. Elara's hands trembled as she gripped the controls, staring at the monolith. The storm clouds outside the Odyssey crackled with energy, as if responding to her hesitation. The journal lay on her lap, its final entry sprawled with urgency. Day 90. The loop is closing in. I've tried everything, but the artifact binds us here. Each time I fail, I leave a piece of myself behind, hoping the next version will succeed. If you're reading this, it's your last chance. Elara squeezed her eyes shut, feeling a wave of despair wash over her. It was like looking into a mirror and seeing her own future, a future of endless repetition, lost in a time loop she couldn't escape. But unlike the previous attempts, she knew the truth now. The journal was her own creation, left behind in countless cycles, a breadcrumb trail from herself to herself. The comm system crackled to life again, and the faint familiar voice returned. You're hesitating, it said, filled with a sadness only she could understand. I know it's terrifying. Destroying the artifact means destroying us, erasing everything we've experienced, but it's the only way to end this. Elara gritted her teeth, her mind racing. If she destroyed the artifact, it might collapse the time loop, but at what cost? Would she cease to exist, along with all the versions of herself that had come before? Or would she be set free, untethered from this endless cycle? She turned back to the journal, reading the last entry. Trust your instincts. The answer isn't in logic or calculations. It's in the choice you're willing to make. Taking a deep breath, she initiated a scan of the monolith. The data streamed across the screen, revealing its structure, an ancient device powered by a blend of alien technology and the energy of the wormhole itself. It was like a cosmic anchor, locking time into a continuous loop. Elara's heart pounded as she set the scanner to overload. A warning flashed on the display. Energy overload imminent. Structural integrity compromised. She had mere minutes before the entire monolith destabilized. Elara, wait! The voice called out, a note of desperation breaking through. If you destroy it, we might lose everything. Are you sure you want to do this? For a split second, Elara faltered. She could almost see her future self, older, more worn, but still her, standing at the edge of time, pleading for a chance to hold on. But Elara knew that holding on meant endless repetition, never truly moving forward. I'm sure, she whispered, tears welling up in her eyes. We can't live like this anymore. It's time to end it. With a swift motion, she activated the overload sequence. The monolith's glow intensified, its rhythmic pulse turning into a rapid, erratic beat. The entire ship shook, the storm outside raging as the artifact began to fracture. Goodbye, the voice said, fading into static. Thank you for setting us free. The monolith exploded in a brilliant flash of light, and everything went dark. Elara floated in a void of pure darkness, weightless and disoriented. There was no sound, no sensation, only a profound stillness that seemed to stretch on forever. For a moment she wondered if this was it, if she had erased herself along with the artifact, leaving nothing behind but empty space. But then she felt a pull, like a gentle current drawing her upward. Slowly the darkness receded, replaced by soft golden light. Elara blinked, her vision clearing to reveal a starry sky above her, brighter and more vivid than she had ever seen. She was no longer on the Odyssey. Instead, she stood on a rocky cliff, overlooking a vast, alien landscape bathed in the light of a distant sun. She took a deep breath, the air cool and fresh against her skin. It was real. She was alive. Elara, a voice called out from behind her. She turned to see a figure stepping forward, emerging from the shadows. It was her, but not the worn, exhausted version she had heard in the comms. This was a reflection of herself, but different, lighter, more at peace, as if a great burden had been lifted. You did it, the figure said with a smile. You broke the loop. Alara's eyes widened. Are you me? The other version nodded. I was the last remnant of the loop, the part of you that was trapped here. When you destroyed the artifact, you set us free. The loop has ended, and now you're outside of it. New timeline, free from repetition. Elara felt a wave of relief wash over her, followed by a rush of questions. But what happens now? What about the journal, the warnings, everything I left behind? The figure stepped forward, gently placing a hand on Elara's shoulder. The journal was your guide, a way for you to find the truth. But now it's up to you. You're no longer bound to the loop. The future is yours to shape. Elara looked out at the horizon, where the sun was rising, casting a golden light across the alien landscape. She had journeyed through wormholes, faced the unknown, and uncovered the truth about her own fate. And now as she stood on the brink of a new beginning, I'm ready, she said softly. The figure nodded, their form beginning to fade. Then go. Live your life. Explore new worlds. Write your own story. Elara watched as her other self disappeared, leaving her alone on the cliff. But she didn't feel alone. She felt whole, as if all the fragmented pieces of herself had finally come together. She took one last look at the sky, then turned and began to walk away. The journal clutched tightly in her hands. It was empty now, its pages blank, waiting to be filled with new adventures, new discoveries. For the first time, the future was hers to write.